friends and family members and stuff that I've talked with in the past who are asking me what I do, and I explain all the stuff, and they're like, "Oh, I would never do that. I don't need to do that, blah, blah, blah." So I say, "Do you get a physical every year?" "Oh, no, I don't get a physical every year, salty dog type stuff." I'm like, "Okay." "You go to the dentist?" And like 50-50 will be like, "Yeah, I go to the dentist." "Okay. How often do you change the oil in your truck?" They're like, "Oh, like clockwork," right? Like clockwork. Like, all right, man. Well, like your body is your truck, and this is the one truck you have.
Cool. So I wanted to start with a story and kind of like map the way for this episode. It was 2020, and we all know what happened in 2020, and the world changed, and our schedules got different, and things shut down. And Chris and I were actually in New York at that time, running gyms. We had 6 gyms in New York City, and then it went to having like things to do all the time, to trying to figure out what to do. And in that transition, I've really felt that my energy went down and my fatigue went up, and I really thought it was a lot of what was happening on the outside and the shift and the mental stress through it all. But what actually ended up happening was something that I wouldn't have looked into ever, unless it was for my friend like giving me the nudge, like, "Hey, like go get your blood work done, go see what's happening on the inside." And finally I did go get it done, and my testosterone levels were at 200 back then. We're doing better now. We're doing much better now. But I was in early 30s, and I felt like I was just stressed from work and trying to like save the business at the gyms, and I was training really hard because I was competing at that point in my life, and I just thought like, this is normal, like I don't have to sleep, and I'm eating really well. And I didn't think about like checking out what's going on under the hood. So I really wanted to get you in here today, Nick, and have a conversation, because I've been through this. Chris, I don't know if you've gone through this or have considered doing it, but kind of opening up the hood of like what's happening on the inside, and really looking at the science and the data, and forming a plan with a specialist to optimize your life, right? So Nick Smith, welcome. Happy to have you here. And I'm just curious, dude, like, tell us about yourself. Who are you? What do you do? Why are you here? And I want to get into this topic of, getting our blood work done, like approaching that conversation and going forward.
Yeah. Well, my background's all strength and conditioning, kinesiology, exercise science, all that, master's degree. Dabbled a lot with training professional athletes in different organizations and internships all over the place. Owned my own gym as well for a bit. I actually sold it right before COVID, just by chance. So high five there. That was
there you go.
A little bit. I'm sure you guys pushed through. But my story is kind of similar with you, Kevin, in terms of I have a 3-year-old daughter. So as she was about to be born, I'm like, man, I'm feeling like shit. And I have never checked my testosterone levels before. And a client of mine at the time that I was training remotely was part of some service that offered this. So I went and got it checked, and it was somewhere in the 400s or so, which is not all that great, but I could use some improvement. But then I started checking it again every 3 months, and it was trending down. So I started to take some steps towards fixing all of that. But that is what I think is missing in the annual physical for guys. I mean, even starting nice young age, to figure out where your testosterone levels are and to see the trend of if it's staying steady or if it's slowly going down, seeing what your symptoms are, and then trying to mitigate all those things, doing everything you possibly can before switching to doing TRT or enclomiphene or whatever it may be. You just don't know where you are unless you go look.
Yeah. And I think you said something right there. It's really important. Like, at that point I said, let's fix this ASAP. Right. But you can raise your testosterone levels without going on TRT or enclomiphene. Right. So I mean, I want to make sure anyone who is listening understands, like, this isn't the be all and end all. This is a way that can help and has been proven to help. But there are ways, and I'm sure we'll dive into certain things that, people do that are diminishing their chances of maintaining or raising their testosterone versus, what we can do to assist ourselves improve that naturally. Yeah. So right now, I mean, I met you through Blokes, Josh's company, and I love what you guys are doing. So I originally worked with a different telehealth company, and it was like, hey, at first it was awesome. Like, they would text me, and it was small. There was like 3 guys that worked there. That's why. And then when they started to blow up, which a lot of this HRT peptide companies have done over the last couple of years, they hired too soon. It became automated. It was a lot of just automated text. And, I send automated text via our business, but I am also in the sense of, like, if I see one come in, I'm probably not going to answer it, and I'm probably just going to delete it or hit stop. So I lost that. There's trust loss, but in doing so and going there, it was kind of like, hey, like, this is everything that you can get, and it's like $10,000 for the next 3 to 4 months, and you don't need it all, but it would benefit you to try all of it. And I was like, well, no, I'm not going to do that. Turn the page to working with you. It was the opposite. You're like, hey, let's actually look at what you want and go slow so we can see if it works and pivot. So how did you end up with Josh and the team over at Blokes, and talk us through, like, why that's different?
Yeah, I well, I ended up with Blokes because I was personally searching for something like that myself. My urologist at the time prescribed me testosterone, and she accidentally got me up into a 900 area. And I'm like, whoa, this feels great. Like, this is where I want to be. And she
There you
said,
go.
no, 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 that's too high. We're going to bring you back down. And not knowing any better, I said, oh, okay, whatever. And brought me back down to the 600s. And she said, this is good. I'm like, well, I don't feel good. I still feel shitty. I want to go back to 900. I'm not comfortable doing that. So Blokes is created to treat your symptoms, right? The numbers are there to assist, but it's really based off of how you feel. And most guys feel their best somewhere between 800 and 1200. I've met guys in their 400s who feel fantastic and are jacked and all the stuff and are symptom free. That's great. But most of the time, it's 800 to 1200. So dabbling into what Blokes offers, there was a position that opened up that, with my story and my expertise and background and knowledge, I kind of was able to get my foot in the door and start to nerd out on all the labs and the markers. And I've really taken a liking to it, and opened up a whole new door, a whole new hallway for me to go down. So I'm very happy to be here and help people. That's what it's all about, right? Trying to get everyone to feel better, not trying to push testosterone on people. Like, let's try everything we possibly can first before you switch to that. Um, so it just laying out all the options.
Yeah, I think, like, testosterone today is, in the sense for men who are looking for a fix, is like the semi-glutide for people looking to lose weight. And they're like, can you just give me this right away? And a lot of places are just like, yeah, of course, here, take this. You have to take it forever now, without thinking about all the other options. And I understand that, I will take it forever. But there are other ways to go around it. And that's what I appreciated about, I mean, we didn't really have that conversation since I was on it already, but for other things, it was more along the lines of, let's start slow, and what can we do, making some lifestyle changes to see and monitor this success, or rate of change to get to success over time. So yeah, I think it's been great, super personalized, no automations except for the scheduling things, which is great. You reach out to me regularly, and I'd say regularly where it's every 3 months or so, what's necessary, and if I need something, you're there via email, which is great. So it's nice to put a face to a name versus just talking to someone on the phone via a CRM number. Chris, what are your thoughts on, like, looking at hormone health, total health from the inside out? You're very knowledgeable of this too. So, like, what do you got? And then what do you have to ask Nick about this?
Yeah, absolutely. I clearly think it's important, and I'm happy that it's become a bigger conversation. I think it's, for me personally, it's an area that I'm lacking as far as taking action in mine. Um, and I know that I've known that for some time, so I know that it's something that I'm motivated to do. And I think I've kind of been on that side of, I just turned 32. I generally feel pretty good, but I don't know if I could feel better situation. And I know plenty of people who are a little younger than me, around my age, that do have low T. And something I did want to ask, actually, like in that conversation, was, you know, before this became a big conversation, when did like, let's say I'm 50 plus and I'm going to my doctor, are they even bringing up testosterone to me, looking at it? Like, in what age, if so, does that ever happen, or does it?
It's like 50-50, or maybe even worse than that, like 70-30 of your primary care is either all about it or nothing at all or somewhere in between. Like I said, with my experience in the past, I got to 900 by accident and pushed me back down. Like, well, that's not great. The norm of testosterone is like 250 to 1100 norm. Like if you look on your LabCorp test results, like the black and white version, that like you fall in the norm. And so your primary care is going to say, "Oh, well, you're 310 there, Chris. You're normal." You're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, okay, cool, thanks." And then that's the end of
Right.
it.
And they
Well,
send you
yeah,
packing.
I think, I mean, I think my actual number was 223, and that fell within normal range. So if I did go to a PCP, they would have been like, no, we can't do anything about it. And I don't know if it was you, or if you did this or not, but like if I was in your position and I felt better at 900 and she was like, no, we're going to take it back down, I would have been taking the same dose to feel better at 900 for a little, like, and then that gets sticky too, right?
That's I just to caveat off of that. Yeah, I could have done that, but then there's regulations within the dosages. So if I'm taking a higher dose to stay at 900 and I run out and I go to refill, they're going to say, well, you don't get a refill until X date because we gave you just enough to stay at 600. So you're kind of like literally stuck at the will of whatever they prescribe you.
Right. Which yeah, it's wild, the normal rate. And I want to get into that a little bit more, but I've read a stat and I'm going to butcher it. So, I mean, we'll fact check this later, but the time, the, when my grandfather was in World War II, the general range of testosterone was well above what it is now. And I'll say that loosely, but it was more so along the lines of that 700 and up to 1500, I would even say. And then, like, as things changed over the last several decades, it's gone down, similarly to the normal rate of having a heart attack now is more regular, or being obese, or like having diabetes is regular at this percentage now. But I mean, we won't get into nutrition too much today, but like, 70 years ago, that wasn't the case. So, I mean, there's a lot of question to that. But, I think, Chris, you said something along the lines of, and I don't know if you meant that you don't want to jump into it yet, have that door hasn't truly opened, you're trying to figure some other things out. But like, I mean, I'm curious if, Chris, what your thoughts are on it, and Nick, yours as well. Like, what are some common misconceptions, or in the conversations that you have, what are some of the things that you may have heard that delayed someone's initial conversation, or like Chris said, like, I haven't even opened that door yet to see what's going on underneath the hood to get our blood work done.
Sure. For me, uh, it, it is the little, I feel good on the outside, and I truthfully, I don't even have a regular doctor. Part of that for me has been health insurance, where I'm not justifying the means to then go outside of that and find a doctor and deal with those things. And again, part of that is just transparently laziness to an extent, right? Not wanting to deal with it because it's easier not to. And I don't see any symptoms of anything that make me further, I guess, push the needle, even though, and I think it's so funny because I know so many people in our industry who don't go to the doctor regularly enough or get their blood work done. And I think it's the conversation that you have. But yeah, it's truly just not making it a priority because I haven't had to, right? And I've dealt with that with tearing my ACL, or tearing my anterior labrum, right? Things that I've seen symptoms of, and then I still didn't take action on being I was a younger athlete at those times, but I didn't know until it was too late type of situation, right? And that's not something I want to fall into now. And for all I know, my testosterone could be lower than I'd like it to be. So it is, this is already a motivating thing for me to do, just being on the call. And it's also, I might know things about it, but there's always so much more to know about it, because I'm super interested in all of the things that blood work can tell you in conjunction with these other lifestyle factors that we have, our daily activity, all of those things. And obviously, even the hereditary factors.
I'm excited for you to figure out where you are and go from there. And just, if whatever number it is there, Chris, don't, you feel great, right? So even if it's at 400, don't go, oh no, it's too low, I got to do something about it. Well, you're kind of symptom free, so I think you're okay. The majority of guys that I see on Blokes, they're taking the initiative already. They're there. They've been fed up and they're going for it. Friends and family members and stuff that I've talked with in the past who are asking me what I do, and I explain all the stuff, and they're like, oh, I would never do that. I don't need to do that, blah, blah, blah. So I say, do you get a physical every year? Oh, no, I don't get a physical every year, salty dog type stuff. I'm like, okay. You go to the dentist, and 50-50 will be like, yeah, I go to the dentist. Okay. How often do you change the oil in your truck? They're like, oh, like clockwork, right? Like clockwork. Like, all right, man. Well, your body is your truck, and this is the one truck you have. What the heck are you doing? Go look. And it's, we say this all the time, literally go look under the hood. Go see what's going on. How are you not doing that? It's just it's blatantly obvious to me. I want to smack all the guys that I see on the road. Just go do this thing. Just knock it out at least once a year. And then you're going to start to nerd out on it and fine tune and tinker all these things. And you're going to start feeling great. And then you're going to realize you should have been doing this whole time.
I think there's this theme where if you don't know, you don't know until you know. And, I felt good until I didn't. And then I wanted to make a change. And it could have been a number of different things. I just so happened to look at the data and what was happening within me. To your example, Nick, there's probably a lot of guys that are just like, okay, this is just how it is. I'm getting older. Do you think it's more so of that ignorance to not understanding the situation? Or do you think there's some misconceptions and fear in seeing those numbers, or I guess the stigma of well, what are people going to think of me if I take a testosterone injection? Am I do people think it's anabolics, right? It isn't. So, I mean, what have you had those conversations without getting in specifics? I don't want to talk about it.
I remember telling a buddy that I was on injections, and his initial reaction was, "Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Oh, I'm so sorry."
I'll pray for you.
What? No, I feel freaking great. I feel sorry for you. You don't even know where you're at. So, and then you see it on social media now. So many more guys are more open to it and saying that they're doing it. Whereas before, I think they were kind of embarrassed or hiding it. Oh no, I have to take testosterone. I'm not a man anymore. I can't create it on my own or whatever. I think that's going away. I think it was an issue before, but I think the more and more of these companies come up and the more these podcasts and whatnot, and we're talking about it, I think it becomes more acceptable.
Yeah. I agree. What were you going to say, Chris?
No, you basically asked what I was going to ask, because I think it has to be a combination of things, and it's probably person dependent, I'm sure, but I think there is a brooding stubbornness to us. I think there is a fear of finding out. I think there's also, it's getting out of your own way. It's not being comfortable that you have to go do something that you don't want to do, but it's kind of like the barrier that we'll cross with a client trying to get them to start training consistently. We have to get them to go out of their way to do that. And that's a much bigger time investment, to your point, right? If people went and got their blood work done, and this is to me too, I know I'm saying this to myself, that one time or two times more ideally, or for some people I know who go quarterly, it's an investment that's going to pay dividends because you know exactly what you're doing, and I tell people this, the same thing about supplements. I have worked with supplement companies, and I'm like, maybe you don't need to take all these supplements, and maybe you need to find out what supplements you should take. So and that's the funny thing. I've given the advice more than times than I can count to go get their blood work done, so we can find out. But I have been lazy in my own way on that.
Yeah, there's two things there that you just said. One, taking your own advice. One, so three. Two, I agree 1,000% with the supplement side of things. And one of my favorite parts are the smart supplements with Blokes, because I believe even if I just took that, we didn't make the little changes of like changing up the dosage on the hormone stuff. Like, now I know where I'm lacking. Now I know how, like, the interconnectivity of the gut and the levels of X, Y, and Z in my body. And if we can put together a supplement pack that my body needs versus like, here's a general multivitamin packet that's going to help you with X, Y, and Z and fix you and cure and send you to the moon at the same time, like, we're going to be able to feel better. So I think, to Chris's point, touch on that, Nick. Like, before, and you said, like, I don't push TRT down people's throats, and I don't know if you work with the women, the joy side too, or if you're just working with men. But the smart supplements and the importance of understanding like simple changes from a micronutrient level, like, why is that? I think that's in my mind, that's primary.
Yeah. So someone will come on, they'll do their blood work and we'll have a health history form, and they might list out all the supplements that they're currently taking, or it'll say none, or just, protein powder or whatever. And going through their markers and their blood work, we can start to see deficiencies or areas where they are like, whoa, how much zinc are you taking? Like, let's back it off. So being able to fine tune exactly what vitamin or mineral you are consuming, so that you're not just shotgunning and blasting everything all at once. You're literally sniping each little spot is pretty freaking cool. And that's what these smart supplements do. We curate these packs for you and send them to you on a monthly basis. And since we're going to be doing your labs, ideally 4 times a year, if you're doing any sort of hormone replacement therapy with us, that's 4 times a year that we have a chance to adjust that packet of whatever's in there, change things around. And that way you don't have to go buy a whole nother bottle of whatever and have it sit in your cabinet. And, the amount of supplements you open up, it's just packed with whatever it is. So now you just have this pack and you're good to go.
Right. And what's interesting about what you just said too is like all the supplements, because to your point, you can take that every 3 to 6 month opportunity to fine tune those things versus watching the hottest craze or going to a vitamin shop or GNC and being told this is the thing you need. And then everyone just starts loading up on it, and there's no time frame of how long they are not taking it, or consistency and schedule. But to your point, always just piling up with the new thing, except for usually the things that actually they need, like maybe a vitamin D or fish oil, depending upon the person.
Yeah. I'll see a lot of vitamin D deficiencies actually, and then the individual will say, "Oh yeah, I actually take vitamin D." Like, great. What dosage are you taking? Like, 1,000 or 2,000 IUs. Okay, well, we need 5,000.
Yeah, I was gonna say, well, they probably need 5.
Like, whoa, are you sure about that? Like, hey, I'm glad you were taking it in the first place, but we need to get you up into a more optimal level here. It's simple things like that.
Yep.
Yeah, and there are easy, actionable steps in one, like getting the custom prescription. We'll just start with the smart supplements and taking that, and then applying that to lifestyle habits, which is what Chris and I help people with. And the like you said earlier, we want to make sure people are living the lifestyle and not just expecting to get their blood work done, either poke themselves or take a supplement and like feel better. It's a tool in the toolbox to help you do these things more with proper nutrition, movement, recovery. I just want to make sure everybody understands that this isn't like the quick fix. This is a optimal change when you add it to the lifestyle.
We'll say what, we'll do your lab work and we'll go over that, and I'll make suggestions: nutrition and lifestyle first, then supplements, then peptides, and then hormone replacement therapy if it comes to that. So,
yeah, you did that with me. Exactly. through and through. And, I don't do protein coffee. And I know you said like, oh, I do my protein and my like cold coffee in the morning. So I'm taking a protein shake, I'm drinking my water. Right. And then I go and have my like collagen latte like 20 minutes later, because I was almost like leaky gut syndrome, right? We weren't absorbing all of the nutrients that I was taking. And then, I mean, we'll find out in a week or so when we get on to talk about my 3-month labs. But I feel better. My energy is up. My focus is better throughout the day. I've shifted to a more fat-based and carbohydrate-based diet. Like tearing my bicep didn't help. So, I mean, I'm not doing as much high intensity work. So I was like, let's make a little change. But you had pushed to that, like, hey, like, let's separate these types of foods. Let's make sure we're eating, we're not forcing a lot of this acid into our stomach at once. We're giving it a break so our digestive system can work better. And like those were the things that stuck with me more than worrying about where the numbers were or what I, was going to take thereafter. So,
You guys have the unique opportunity to uh, guide your members and clients on a daily basis, where I see these patients every 3 months or so, and maybe an email here or there. So giving some advice, like hopefully they take it to heart and go with it, but to put that into a routine and to put that into something that they can consistently do for 3 months and then see if their lab work has gotten better or not it's a challenge. It's a very big challenge. So you kind of cross your fingers, like, let's hope at least one of those things stick, and then we can work on the other two the next round, you know?
well,
Yep.
I can definitely say that you guys are the unofficial partner for Beyond Coaching, and we will be able to help people. We ask them to collect their notes and come back and sit down and talk with us. Like I have clients that
Very cool.
primarily women right now, because as we said earlier, men are like, I don't need this. We'll get them in there. Don't worry. But then we sit down and like I look at their labs and I ask them what you guys have shared about their labs, and we look at dietary changes and movement changes, and we will monitor that. So we're unofficially working as a team to ensure that these lifestyle habits are taking place over time. I have 3 women that just sat down with someone on the Joy side, which is Joy Wellness is the women's side of what Blokes is, and they were thrilled to actually speak with a human being and had questions afterwards, as everybody does. They're like, oh no, I'm good. And then they come to me with questions. I'm like, well, we could have spoken to the professionals about this, but this is what I think. And we've already started implementing new strategies and habits, and they're very happy with the experience. It's too early to tell like the changes that are being made, but I don't have any doubt in my mind that we'll be able to see some optimal change over a shorter period of time because of how you guys operate, and then our mindset and our approach to wellness overall.
Nice. That's great to hear. Glad you're doing that.
Yeah, we got to get the men in. So,
Well, even so you saying that, actually, I just wrote down 2 questions so I don't forget them, but I'm going to pop at least one of them in right now.
go
So
for it.
I think part of what we just said that we think is the issue is outside of our own feelings, whether they're being stubborn or fear. It's a lack of education. I think around the importance of maybe how early, I don't want to say spoon feed, but how do you think the best way to spoon feed this information to the masses is, which I know you guys are obviously taking strides in doing. And it kind of ties into this, my second question, which is almost one of the same. It's to me, it's bridging a gap, because I think there's a huge gap. To your point, us as coaches, we are on the front line. We have a really big opportunity to work with people with a high level of frequency in comparison to you or companies like you. How do we bridge the gap from a company like you to a coach, where I think a lot of coaches aren't educated the way that they could be? I don't want to say should, but could be, because I don't think every coach should act as if they're a hormonal specialist by any means. But how do we bridge that gap in terms of that education, and that disseminates down, whether it's you direct to consumer or coach to consumer? I think that's a huge area that especially on social media, I'm seeing a lot of people not say what they know a lot, and they have a large influence over people. So and I'm sure this is something that you deal with on a frequent basis, especially when you have these people who have been burnt by people who don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah, well, maybe we're doing that right now, Chris, trying to bridge the gap as best we can. I think you guys are truly doing that. If you, what Kevin just said of the three women that sat down with the Joy side, if they're coming back and bringing the notes of what the specialist said and the game plan, and then you guys literally get to implement that, that there it is. That's your solution right there. Keeping it as simple as possible.
Yeah.
Why would you try to complicate that anymore? I think that's a great, easy way for you guys to be able to start the process and bridge the gap.
Yeah, I got to say they sent me their blood work faster than they filled out any weekly assessment. They were really they were really excited about it. Well, Chris, were you leaning more so into like the education on, you and I are capable of looking at that, and we have a network of people that we can turn to if we have a question, whether it be Nick or other people if we wanted to follow up. But were you talking more so along the lines of being able to assess, like for instance, blood work?
For a client or a consumer, meaning someone who needs to get their blood work done, let's say, I was more so, how do we help them build the awareness that it needs to be done?
Yeah. If you could somehow just get them to do their damn blood work, and then the rest will get taken care of
Right.
because they're going to speak with someone. So how do you convince the stubborn guy to just go get their blood work done?
Are you completely content with your situation right now? Yes or no? And if there's any doubt in there, like, we have to go look on the inside. But
Okay.
we
But
can do all the
let's say that you tell them that. What's the next step when they say fuck off, right? Like, because we know that is what's happening, right?
Yeah, I mean,
So what?
circle back to my original story of friends and family when I'm like, do you change the oil in your truck? And they're like, yeah. Like, so you have to meet them to where they understand what they're missing. And if you can make that connection with the individual, I think they're going to go, oh, I'll go do it. And then it's done. So, the oil change to the truck thing isn't going to work for everybody. But that's where being coaches and you have the ability to connect with that client a little bit and find what moves them and move it for them.
No, yeah, I feel that, and I think meeting them halfway, right? And you will have the guy that says fuck off or something along those lines. However, or like, I got my blood work done, my the basics, my A1C is okay. And I think the idea is that, well, it goes so much further than that, like what our cholesterol levels are and our blood cell count or white blood cell count. Like, we can look deeper, and like anything, the deeper we look, the more information we have, and the more information we have more options. And that's how I like to present it. Like, we don't need to do anything but look and have a conversation. And I tell all of them, especially the women that went in, I was like, you don't have to walk away and purchase anything today. Like, I just want you to see where you are because you've told me X, Y, and Z. And from that, we can formulate a plan to move forward. But without that information, we're going to stick to the same plan and we may not have the same success rate. And that's the main point that I had shared with my clients so far.
Yeah, I love that. And I think part of it too is, like you just said, I think it's also having people like you or Eric and other people we know who are doing it themselves and having those conversations, I guess, showing and demonstrating that, just like anything else that we do with a supplement, with our fitness routine, any type of thing where we're taking charge, we're leading from the front, right? So yeah, no, I think it's great. And that's just why I wanted to bring it up so more people can hear that is happening, because I think that also will help build trust. I think there's also a trust issue when a coach is talking about that with the client at certain times, but it depends on the client and the situation, of course, and the relationship.
Absolutely. So Nick, when people want to get started, is the easiest thing for them to do is to go to blokes.co, or I believe it's joywellness.com to, fill out an application?
They both should be .co. Yeah, just go fill out application or just go get your labs done on there. There's labs that you can purchase. There's 3 different levels. Just start with the basic hormone package. If you have labs from your primary care for whatever reason, you could do an initial consultation and upload those labs. But more than likely, you're going to be missing some pretty cool markers that you're going to want. We have females that come on the Joy side who literally don't have the testosterone marker. It's just estradiol and progesterone because their OBGYN said doesn't matter. Females don't need it. I'm like, what? And so
Go
they come to
figure.
us.
So they can go to one of the websites, which we'll link below. And if you have labs, you can upload them. If you don't, you can book a consultation after getting lab work done. And there are 3 different levels of labs, right? There's different, tiers. What is there? A difference in personnel who you would recommend to get a specific tier, or is it just like, hey, let's start with the easiest one, and then as we come back, we can up to the next level or the top tier level?
Yeah, the basic hormone package is the first one that I would recommend, the complete hormone. And the next one's the advanced panel that I would recommend for individuals that might have a history of thyroid disorder or any family history there or any cholesterol stuff going on. Ask the fam and see if something's happening there just to check. Wouldn't hurt to check if you're still curious, a little bit more pricey. And then the comprehensive is like the Cadillac of all the markers, all the things, get everything covered. Like, why not? I would maybe do that once a year. So you got some options.
Nice. Love that. No, yeah, I think that's a great way, starting with the basic, unless you have a history and, said thyroid, cholesterol, something along those lines, bumping it up. And then once a year, going for the comprehensive exam just to get a full look at what's going on the inside. So then they do that, get their blood work done, either at home, which I think is a super cool option. It's a little add-on. The phlebotomist comes to your house at an optimal time, or you can head on over to a LabCorp and get your blood work done. I went to this morning to get my 3-month, and it was in and out. Tough woman there. She was super serious the whole time until I broke her, and then she was really nice. So, but she was there by herself, just like poking people all day. And then what happens next? You wait, and you'll get a notification about booking a call time. I'm just trying to hear it from you.
Yep. You'll get a notification and an email, and then we'll schedule a Zoom call, and you'll meet with a health coach and or a provider, a medical provider, and we'll go over your labs marker by marker, kind of ask you a lot of questions and try to interpret the story of what you got going on, what symptoms you have, and trying to treat your symptoms and line them up with what your markers say. Give you the advice, right? Nutrition, lifestyle, supplements, peptides, hormone replacement therapy, and kind of go from there.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that's huge. Super simple when we break it down that way. And then, I just want to let everybody know that if you head over to blokes.co or joinwellness.co and you use code Kavin, you will save on your blood work. So if you're debating on like bumping up to the next one and to find out more information and you're hesitant, you can do that. If you want to go for the comprehensive panel and see all of the wonders of what's going on the inside, you save a little bit more. And then you actually save on the supplements and some of the peptides and products as well. So want to make sure that everybody can be as approachable to this as possible. And I think it's awesome that Josh and you guys and the team have allowed me to share that code with people so they can get involved and get in there and see some changes happen in their life for a positive way. I got a question for you, Nick. If whether it be based on the discussion that we have or in your history of working with athletes, individuals to optimize their life, what are like the top 3 areas that you want to see people focus on when it comes to their wellness?
Ooh, yeah. I gotta lean on nutrition pretty hard. Nutrition's the big one. And in the past, I probably would have said fitness second, but I think the amount of people lacking on sleep and recovery is pretty substantial. So I got to go nutrition, sleep recovery, and then hitting the fitness. But they're all like, 1/3 of the pie here. There's not like one that's more important to the other, really. They all need to work connected. Those are my 3. You guys got different 3?
Mine are I can't. So like I cheat and I just put that all into like their physical health
Oh,
I'm
you
like,
put them all into one?
yeah, I'm like, this is your physical self. No, what we spoke about, and you watched the webinar,
Yeah.
I think that the lowest hanging fruit, as Chris and I say, is the physical aspect. And that is, if we can, my whole goal with all of this is to help people build positive habits. So if they find something that they like to do and they're looking forward to doing it every day, that's going to be number one. So like, can we get moving? And that's why I think physical fitness is the easiest way to start this momentum and this ball rolling downhill. And then nutrition would be number two for me as well. Like, what better choices? How can we make slightly better choices when it comes to what we're eating? So we're not demonizing certain foods, or we're not fearing other foods to fuel our body for the activity that we're now doing. And then three, a close three after would, in the physical sense, would be recovery as well. And I think that's, I've seen such great improvements when it comes to my sleep, like getting the right bed. We spend how much of our percentage of our lives sleeping? We should probably have the right bed to sleep and rest and recover better. Our pillow needs to be really good. Like, I wear an eye mask and mouth tape, and I put an intake breathing nose strip on. Like, recovery is super important. And then, it's funny. It's a show. I should make a reel about it. Like, I look ridiculous when I sleep, but I sleep like a rock. Contrast therapy and recovery, like, I think that is my favorite activity, is to go in the sauna and then go on the ice, and then go on the sauna and go on the ice. I feel like $1,000,000 afterwards. Mental recovery, like taking time to do nothing, meditation, breath work, things like that. And where I am guilty of lacking, and what I think most people are, is the mobility and the stretching. But I think as I get closer to 40, I feel a lot better when I do that regularly. So, those are my top three as well, when it comes to the physical side of things, or getting healthy. But let's not forget the mental health, and like making sure that we give ourselves time and space to reflect on our thoughts and emotions, so we can make conscious decisions that move us forward versus hold us back. So I'll throw another one in there. Chris, what do you got? Anything different, similar?
I would probably put sleep and recovery number one on my list. I might be biased because of the course I'm currently taking right now, but it's very focused on sleep recovery. But yeah, I would say sleep/recovery, not specifically sleep recovery, although that is obviously our biggest recovery tool, our best recovery tool. But yeah, sleep recovery would be number one for me, if we're going to categorize all those aspects of recovery in there. And then I would probably put nutrition 2 and fitness 3. Again, I think, to Nick's point, I think they're interconnected. I don't necessarily think one's more important than the other. I think a majority of people are underselling their sleep. I think they're overstating their sleep to us as coaches, and they're underselling themselves on sleep. And I've caught plenty of people kind of, when I finally get them to break down that routine or write down a 24-hour look of the day or the week, we find those little cracks, those little flaws in there. So to me, that's the biggest one. Nutrition, I think, too. And it's not even about, Kevin and I have, I don't want to say removed ourselves from macro tracking. We've moved away from it a little bit. For me, I've really been focused on not just even fitness or nutrition and those vehicles themselves, but more about the behavioral change in the habit side. So like all encumbersome of everything we just said, I think it's digging into behavioral change. I think that's ultimately the biggest thing we can do. But those three areas of behavior change, I think, are going to make life a lot better.
Absolutely. I saw a post today that said, hey, if you sleep, you have more energy. If you have more energy, you have more focus. And if you have more focus, you can work out. You can, you'll make better choices. And then when you have more energy, you go to the gym and you'll have a better workout, and then you'll be more tired, and then you'll sleep better. So it's weird how all this shit works. And then, oh yeah, you'll burn more fat and build muscle. Strange.
Exactly. Exactly. Start aligning your workouts with your circadian rhythm, Kevin. That's the key.
Yeah, it's tough to do that when the sun goes down at 4:30. I'm like, is it 4?
You're telling me I'm in New York. I know.
Is it 4 or 10 p.m. right now?
Interestingly, my blood work that I've been doing lately, I've noticed one of my markers, my creatine kinase score was rather high. It's the breakdown of muscle tissue. Essentially, it was signaling that I was overtraining, right? And I follow my progressive overload. I've been doing this for a long time in terms of tracking all of that. And I've realized that on my deload weeks, I need to not do a damn thing. So I push hard for 3 to 4 weeks. And then my deload week, I don't do anything. I might go for a walk. Sure, if I want a sauna or cold plunge or whatever, but like in terms of physical pushing myself in the gym or lifting weights or going for runs, nope, can't do it. I need to recover for an entire week before I can get back onto another phase. It's crazy, but I would not have known that otherwise.
Wow, it's
Yeah.
wild. I love
And there's
that.
not a lot of people who are willing to allow themselves, I'm sure you were one of them at one point, to have that amount of recovery.
Yes.
Right? Most of us, recovery is probably just like you said, lifting a little bit lighter in the gym. But there's also a lot of people who don't even do a deload week. The amount of people I speak to who just jump program to program with no deload week ever involved is astounding.
Yep.
Yeah. Or the CrossFit gym programming, where I just had a conversation with my client today. He was like, what do you mean you want me to go on this run and keep my heart rate at 120? Isn't that really low? Like I won't see success in burning fat. And I had to give him like a whole lecture on energy systems and heart rate and, muscle building, et cetera. And he was like, oh, I get it. So then why do CrossFit gyms just program you into the ground every single week? And I was like, anybody can write a program. It doesn't mean it's a good program. They want you to keep coming back for that fix.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So awesome. Well, I appreciate it. We've been on here for almost 50 minutes now, and I just want to encourage everybody to take a chance and look under the hood and head on over to blokes.co or joywellness.co to book your consultation, get your blood work done, and have that conversation with Nick or someone on his team, so you can be more in tune with what's going on the inside. Chris said it earlier. I've been there. We feel a certain way, but we don't know what's going on, and we actually can't understand what's going on until we look at the numbers. And all those numbers are data points to point us in a direction to make a decision about ourselves. And I really want to encourage people to take a chance on this information and this conversation. And I'm super pumped that I've been able to work with you guys and personally, and then bring all of my clients who trust me to you, and you've treated them with nothing but respect and given them the guidance professionally to optimize their lives. And I want to make sure that everybody else that does go there understands that, I'm putting myself out there to say, this is something that I believe in, I trust in, I feel fantastic. I'm going to be 38 years old in January, and I feel amazing. More so in this last year, that's been a very stressful, trying year, than I have in the past, being on hormone replacement therapy, being on a plethora of supplements, and better than I did in my 20s when, I was supposed to have, amazing hormones and, everything should be optimal on the inside. I feel better now that I did that, and you can do it too. So head on over there and you can use code Kavin to save and, report back to us. Let us know how it went, because I want to give them some honest reviews as well, and we'll have to keep the conversation going. But
I'm gonna book mine today.
There we go. I love it.
Done.
That's CAVAN, Chris. Just so.
I got you. I'm putting it out. Public statement. It's happening today.
Awesome. Nick, Chris, you got anything else for listeners before we get out of here and come back next time, do it all over again?
I mean, the number one thing, and I'm sure Nick's going to say the thing, go get your blood work done.
Go get your blood work done. Yeah.
Awesome. Nick, where can they everybody knows where they can find Chris and I. Where can they find you on the socials so they can give you a follow and show you some love?
Me personally? Wow. Social media, strength_Smith, I believe that is my handle. It's been a while.
All right. We'll post it we'll post it underneath too, so they find it. We'll get the link up there.
Well, hey, thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
Dude, appreciate you being here. This has been awesome.
Yeah, Nick, it was a pleasure, dude.
Yeah. Can't wait to help some people, and we'll see everybody real soon.